when I go through my day, I very often find myself in the need of wanting to shift my state of mind kind of like ASAP, as soon as possible. I just kind of oftentimes in various situations have this feeling of, geez, I wish I could just shift right now from, I don't know, various different kinds of experiences. But for example, from, say, being very absent minded or distracted to feeling awake and present, or say from feeling ungrounded and spaced out to feeling anchored and grounded. Or from, actually, for me personally, the worst is I have this sense that my mind or my whole, I don't know, kind of energy can start feeling really narrowed down, kind of locked in or a little narrow or something. And so then I have this wish to shift from that narrow mind into a spacious mind, kind of like that. And so I've for those moments I've developed a practice for myself that I'm calling the ASAP practice, not just because in those moments I kind of need it as soon as possible. That's where for me the playing with those words came from. ASAP, as soon as possible, please. But it's also, now I'm also calling it ASAP because it's the awakening, of a spacious, anchored presence. ASAP. Awakening a spacious, anchored presence. And so the fastest or most direct way I've found to do that is to first, very simply, as we know from any kind of mindfulness practice, first of all, you just want to anchor your attention. That presupposes you know your anchor. I do recommend that, in every, be it mindfulness or meditation introduction, that you first find an anchor for your attention. That could be your breath. If it's your breath, though, then I find it important to emphasize it's not just some kind of general idea of the breath as a generality, but it's very specific. It's this inhalation, this very particular, unique feeling, bodily feeling of the exhalation. So my teacher Baker, she talks about each hail rather than just the hail or the breath as a general experience. It's very particular and it's bodily. This very feeling of inhaling, this very feeling, bodily feeling of exhaling. So if it's the breath, and that's of course probably the most common anchor for a practitioner's attention, is just bring attention to breath, to breathing. But that's not the only option. I have heard for some people, breathing actually can bring up emotions, or can just not work very well for some people as an anchor. So you can also choose a body point. Like some traditions especially emphasize to, for example, focus on the tip of the nose, which then, of course, is related to breathing, the very point where the breath enters your nose and exits your nose. So you can kind of feel the flow of air at some little point here in that area. So that's a particular point where you can anchor your attention. Or it can be other body points. In my experience, I highly recommend just the anatomical center of the body, which is like in Japanese called the hara, but just like the belly, which is the most anchoring place, just anatomically, in the whole body. So you can also use one of those body points. You could also have your heart, or you could have your hands as an anchor. It doesn't so much, and what I'm saying here right now, it doesn't matter so much what your anchor is. It matters that you do have an anchor that you know you can always return to. And attention knows where to return to. Attention in that sense is a little bit like a dog. It runs off, but it needs to know where home is. Where's your home base? So once attention knows that and learns that, it'll also start coming back to anchor all by itself. And that's a really important point if we're going to develop our practice, that both that body point or the breath, whatever your anchor is, that it kind of starts being filled with, it holds the intention to call back the attention all by itself without you needing to do it. So this first practice of just anchoring our attention will develop much more strongly over time. At first, you have to exert a lot of effort to bring attention always back to anchor. But over time, and that's really a huge moment for any practitioner, when you start noticing that attention actually starts coming back all by itself. It's like a dog that has learned where home is, what to return to, where it belongs. So again, doing it over time will make the very practice I'm giving you now, it will make it more effective. I hope it's already effective just first time you hear it, but it'll grow more and more effective as the anchor kind of gains traction in your experience and gains a kind of power. So the first one is anchor. You just first thing, say you're in some situation, you're finding yourself just kind of scattered and maybe off center or whatever it is for you. And first thing you want to do is bring attention back to anchor. Okay. It's also you're grounding the mind in the body. Grounding the mind in the body. And then the second piece, once you've done that, you can slow down. And I mean that as a kind of like with your whole being, slow down. Like the most effective is what actually changes the state of mind is when the breath slows down. You don't want to force it, like it should still be natural breathing, but it is the case that pace, in general, all kinds of paces, even like the pace of our thinking, the pace of our breathing, there's a kind of metabolic pace that has a huge impact on our state of mind. So, and here too, the more like if you start slowing down your breathing, still in a way that you feel completely natural and relaxed about it, but just kind of like now intentionally taking out speed. What that tends to do is it'll like your mental busyness, which is the typical way that daily life consciousness, the thinking mind, is perpetuating itself just by being fast. So to slow down is like, it's going to be at first a little bit like, now I feel impatient, or it brings up a kind of restlessness, but you want to actually go through that. Let that restlessness kind of play out, and it's almost like a nervous system release a little bit. So you have to apply a certain amount of just continuous, a little bit of discipline here. No, I'm going to slow down. And again, it's most effective to slow down the breathing. Here too, over time, what happens is, and that's well proven for a meditation practice, is that body and mind are more integrated over time. The more you practice, the more your different bodily rhythms, the fluid rhythms, your heartbeat and your breath, but also neurological rhythms, it's all going to synchronize a lot more. So to slow down, what you can start becoming so, and it's again, like when they measure experienced meditators, when a meditator slows down their breathing, then usually also their heart rate slows down and other metabolic rhythms just kind of slow down. So this is physiological. I'm not joking when I'm calling this changing your state of mind. This actually, if you practice it, it's a way of changing your physiology. It changes your state of mind. So slowing down pace is probably the most effective way to change our state of mind, to changing our pace. And you can also, of course, inner and outer, if like you're finding yourself kind of walking a little hectic or fast, you slow down. You can slow down your perception. You like, rather than looking at everything a bit scattered and not really noticing anything, kind of rest in each moment. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So you slow down and also thus enter the particularity of each moment. It's like you're opening into the location of the moment. My teacher Baker Roshi has this little phrase that I just find so simple and so effective. He says, and especially he applies it when somebody is kind of running across the monastery paths. He says, slow down. There is a here in every now. There's a here. There's a location in every now. So by slowing down, it's also arriving in the location of the moment, or the mandala of the moment, if you will. So all that is in there. You slow down, arrive in the mandala of this moment, and thus also changing your metabolism, changing all of your bodily rhythms, and kind of, rather than having attention jump and reach and grasp, you're kind of letting attention, you're grounding it, letting it settle and rest, and then usually opening up also, become more receptive attention versus a reachy, graspy kind of attention. So slow down. And then the third practice is a bit of a shift. So you've slowed down. And now there's something like a question, but like, what now? What's your compass now? How do you initiate the next step, the next action? The last two have kind of like brought you into settling. And now this one, as I'm calling it, conjuring up a good wish. And that can be a simple question that doesn't even need to be answered in any specific way. It's just kind of like in that slowed down physiology, which also has usually much better feeling for itself. It's like the body feels itself when you're slowed down. And it's in that you can ask yourself such a question as, what do I actually wish? Be it for this day, what do I wish for today? What do I wish for this moment? It doesn't have to be like the big life wish or anything, but just can be specific. What do I wish for today? And then usually you want to look for a feeling rather than an answer. Just look for a feeling to arise. Usually just the way I'm using this term, I'm using it almost like a technical term, the good wish, as something that's simply felt. And I'm saying wish because for me, at least, that has a strong heart component, a kind of heartfelt warmth or something that I can bring into the moment. So conjure up a good wish. And from there, then, you perceive freshly. So you've anchored your attention, you have slowed down, you've conjured up some feeling of like a good wish that is oriented towards like your hopes for yourself or for your life or for this day or for this moment. You're conjuring up that positive, a connection with such a positive feeling, which is also, by the way, going to get your attention out of, to the extent it's been possibly kind of stuck in some kind of problem-focused mindset. You're now entering more a wish or possibility-focused mindset. So what's possible right now? What do I wish for? And then from here, you're perceiving freshly, and you're noticing how possibly you're now perceiving things differently, and maybe different things too. That's the best way to know if you've actually changed your state of mind, is to see if your perception has changed. Ideally, there'd be something different about your perception if it's actually going to be a real shift in your state of mind. And one common just kind of symptom for the awakening of a more spacious and anchored presence is that oftentimes comes with some kind of basic feeling of appreciation, or even a joy that has no particular reason, just then the joy of being alive, perceiving freshly, and again noticing what may have changed in your perception. You do want to notice those differences, because then that will encourage you to do the practice again. If you now put these four together, anchoring is the first one, slowing down is the second one, activating a good wish is the third one, and then perceiving freshly is the fourth. Thank you.